The concept today is the tree of life versus the tree of knowledge, of understanding of good and evil. So we are actually faced with these choices in everything we do, even when we're reading the Bible. If we're doing it to just accept it with whatever it says, not coming with our own bias and trying to force it into our own interpretations to fit our own agendas, our own desires, then that is the tree of life. Anything that is spiritual, the heavenly, is things like love, joy, peace, faith, hope. These are the things that we can be our guiding aspect, our higher identity. This is what is within us. So we are actually these trees of life, the righteous people. And when we choose the tree of the knowledge of understanding of good and evil, where instead we're reading the Bible in order to teach others, to gain control over them, to gain praise of people, because like, wow, you know so much, you're so smart to understand good and evil. It's that control where you're saying, I'm not going to just accept it by faith. First, you need to prove it to me. That's like doubting Thomas, where he's like, unless I can see it, unless I can touch it, then I'm not going to accept it. You have to prove it to me first. I'm going to understand it first before I just accept it. So those are the two approaches that you can do to everything. And if you choose the physical, this is like the temporary, the created thing, then you are cutting yourself off from God. So it's fine to have that knowledge, but if you're choosing that first and you say, I'm not going to believe until, then it's impossible. You're disconnecting yourself from God. You're making yourself your own God. And so you're actually disconnecting yourself, cutting yourself off from all that faith and love that's inside of you, your spiritual aspect. Instead, you're depending on your physical, your carnal nature, your carnal understanding. So it's not the same understanding of God. It's not the same knowledge of God. If you first started with wisdom, like that seed that is the thoughts that God's giving you, and you take the time to develop it into understanding, eventually you be able to have those life applications of the knowledge of good and evil. So it's not like your body or anything physical is evil. What is wrong that cuts us off from our spiritual aspect is when we're only going based on sight and not based on faith, when it needs to be proven to us first. So someone who says, I'm just going to decide for myself what I'm going to believe, but that they're not actually seeking God. Instead, they're just living their life and seeing what happens. Then that's kind of like a lie that they're even telling to themselves. They're not they're not like searching out and comparing different religions. They're not seeking God actively. A lot of people that may say this, where they're just saying, I'm just going to decide for myself because I guess I've been hurt in churches, and so there could be some truth to that. But like that also is not true if they're choosing the tree of knowledge, where it has to be proven to them first. Prove to me that God is real before I believe in him, says the atheist. But God can never be seen. So then they're never going to believe. And really, it doesn't matter how much proof is given to somebody who takes this low road, like the physical, the earthly, which is beneath. It doesn't matter how much proof is offered to that person. It's still never going to satisfy them, because you can only enter and connect with God through faith. It says it's like without faith, it's impossible to please him. You have to first believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. So it's like if those people don't even believe God, they're not going to act on it, because if you believe, you're going to act on it. So if that faith is not the initiator, then they're actually just trying to disprove, to like prove that they are right to go down the path that they are at, because they're like, well, I can't see God, so thus he doesn't exist, or whatever. It's like they're never going to have enough proof. And also, it's like what comes from the left side of things, like anything that is constraining, like judgment, laws, anything that is restricting people, It's not like there's anything wrong in itself with what would be on the left side, what receives from God. But it's to realize that it's dependent on God. So all needs to be overwhelmed with the right side, like things that are expansive, like love. But to live on the side of judgment, somebody who is all their decisions are based on judgment, where that's what their primary identity is, that's the tree of knowledge of good and evil, because they're judging, they're discerning what's right and what's wrong, and looking at people that way instead of looking at people through the lens of love. They're never going to accept people, because accept comes from the right side. So they're always going to have these excuses of they're moving the bar forward, the goalpost of well, you got to do this and then I'll accept you, when really they're lying to themselves that they're never going to accept them. So it's like this lie of you have to be and conform to this mold, this identity, this outward identity that can be defined, when really, like, God can't be defined. So anybody who's trying to put you in that mold of judgment, of you need to do this and accept me and say that you're wrong and I'm right, they're really just making themselves their own God. They've already cut themselves off from God. So they're like a false prophet in that way, even if they're sharing truths from the Bible. If they're saying that this is the truth, their interpretation of what's good and evil, and that you have to cling to that tree of knowledge, that they want you to be cut off like them. This misery is loving company. So they're never actually going to accept you. So don't choose the tree of life to connect to source, and then from there you could develop knowledge. So it's like we can have our outward experience as well, but what needs to be overwhelming is the spiritual unseen aspect that we can only accept by faith. So that's the tree of knowledge versus the tree of life, where both of these, the physical outside shell of us would be the tree of knowledge. It's kind of like the snake skin that we're going to shed. We're not going to keep this body, and our true identity, our eternal unchanging aspect, what lasts forever, is things like faith, hope, and love. So that's like where we came from and who we always have been. So to accept that, to just let that shine through us, to lead all of our decisions, that would be like the high road that we're choosing. So everybody has this choice in all of their circumstances, but if you choose the low road, the physical first, then you are cutting yourself off from God, making yourself it puts you in darkness, because you're not making your decisions based on that spiritual aspect.